Mati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namah. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desa Tarane.
Hare Krishna. So welcome all of you for this podcast on behalf of ICC Book Distribution Committee. We are very much enlivened and glad to have with us the Holy Association of His Holiness Kavichandra Swami Maharaj. Hari Bol. Yes, thank you for joining us today. I guess you are not in India now, somewhere else. It's quite late there. But thank you for joining today.
I'm in Bali.
Oh, it's very late in night. Bali, Indonesia.
Well, we just finished it. Kirtan. Be up anyway. So,
thank you for coming and joining us today. We have a book distribution marathon going on right now, and we are doing a series of podcasts with various leaders who are in book distribution for decades. So we all thought that we should also have a podcast with you because we know that book distribution, it's a very integral part of your preaching mission, as you're taking it from Srila Prabhupada's legacy, and wherever we have seen that you emphasize on book distribution and Harinam so much. So Maharaj, we will ask you a few questions, and you can kindly enlighten us with your realizations of so many years of Krishna consciousness. Maharaj, can you start? If you have something to say before we start, Maharaj.
Manchakalpa Truvyas Chakripa Sindhu Vivacha Patitanam Pavane Vaishnavevi. Well, I'm honored because I'm generally feeling that I what they call a has-been. At one point, I distributed a lot of books and inspired a lot, but I don't know anymore. It's taken off so huge all over the world with different devotees distributing, hundreds of sets of Srimad Bhagavatam. So many phenomenal things going on. So we're very fortunate. I was fortunate to be in the ground floor. Anyway, ask the questions. It makes it easier.
Yes. Maharaj, your first question from our side will be, could you speak something on the relationship between Srila Prabhupada and book distribution in Iskcon?
Yeah, Well, Iskcon is Prabhupada's body, and Prabhupada's main, endeavor. Of course, hard to say, but he put so much energy into producing books and then getting them distributed. So Prabhupada, his whole mission started, of course, first he started with the Back to Godhead, but then once he started translating the Srimad Bhagavatam, then he was just dedicated to distributing it and trying to get it printed and distributing it, which was, simultaneous. And when he traveled to America, he had his personal possessions was practically nothing, one small metal trunk. But he had a few hundred sets of the first canto. So, and he had printed this little flyer, which we have pictures of it in the Lilamrita, advertising the Srimad Bhagavatam. I think he was saying even then 60 volumes. At that time he had only 3 volumes and no, apparent ability to do any more than that, coming to an unknown land that people never heard of Krishna or Srimad Bhagavatam. But when we read his diary in New York, everything he was doing was simply trying to distribute the Srimad Bhagavatam. He was writing letters to so many people to buy the books. He was going out himself to bookshops and putting one or two books even, and he couldn't even sell them. The shops weren't buying the book. They were putting him on consignment. And then he was always following up. And the struggle was incredible because many of the diary entries, he was saying he picked up books from such and such place. They call him and say they're not selling. Please come and take them away. So things were going on like that, but a few people were visiting, a few people coming to hear him speak. And they were getting the Kavichandra. He was selling them. Actually, when he arrived in America, he had no money, and there was some kind of tax. And he, in order to get the money for the tax, he sold the captain of the ship 3 books. I think he paid $20, so Prabhupada could pay the $15 tax. So you can see the intimate relationship of the book distribution. Prabhupada himself was distributing. And then it was back to Godhead, so that. But when actually books appeared in quantity, first there was TLC, and distribution wasn't so big. But gradually, as the number of devotees increased and books started being available, especially first was Bhagavad Gita, and then distribution. And of course, there were a lot of small books. And Prabhupada, he was always even telling how his Guru Maharaj was so pleased if a brahmachari would sell even one magazine. Prabhupada was very, very happy. So at the time I joined in 1971, it wasn't long after that the Krishna books were coming out. I think one volume was already there when I joined. But distribution got started after a while. Devotees, they were just selling them in the temple. Even my own experience, I was at the temple. I was not. The temple was so small. There were 5 brahmacharis. I had a wife and child and dog. I was sleeping in my Volkswagen van out, in front of the temple. And one day I was there alone, and we were always hearing that the temple president was always saying, Prabhupada wants to distribute these books. Prabhupada wants to distribute the books. But nobody was distributing them, at least in that little temple. And one time I was somehow there alone, and some guest came, and I don't know, I don't remember much detail, but I just remember I didn't know what to say. I was very new. And I just said, we have these really nice books, and the guest bought a bunch of books. So I was, quite happy. And then I remember asking the temple president, can I go out and try to sell these books? And for me, the last thing, in career choice or whatever, the last thing I would ever imagine was selling anything. I always thought salesmen were, because the salesmen we meet, they'd come to door trying to sell stuff, and they're always schlocky, and I never wanted to be a salesman. But he said, no, only Madhukanta, he was like the oldest devotee. He's the only one that can sell the books. So I just said, all right, But then as time went on and I went to another temple, and by that time book distribution was getting started. And Krishna just arranged for me. And the living conditions were very, very, I don't know if austere is the right word, but for householders in the house, one floor of the house, divided rooms with madrasas hanging from the ceiling, a little 6 foot by 6 foot room for the householders and their babies. And my wife got really frustrated and went home to her mother. So I started going out door to door every night with one brahmachari. And then I got a real taste for it. And then Prabhupada started writing letters, thanking the devotees for distributing books. And one letter, I remember they read it out, and he said, these boys and girls who distribute my books, they should get extra rest and special prasadam. And I thought, wow, okay, I better distribute. I want to distribute more books. So my motive wasn't completely, understanding very much, but somehow it was so much nectar. So I was supposed to be selling incense, but I'd always be trying to sell books at the same time. And I guess Ramaswar heard about it, so he got me transferred to Los Angeles, supposedly to do the incense factory. But everything was book distribution, like everybody would go out, Prabhupada wants it. And then the letters started coming, so many letters glorifying book distribution and, thanking the devotees and creating competition. Prabhupada would say, I'll come to any temple, whoever distributes the most books, I'll definitely visit. So everybody was thinking they want to distribute more books. So it's so integral, you can't really separate Prabhupada from book distribution. Can't separate Iskcon from book distribution. So many ideas come up. I remember even then, I was in LA, maybe 72. So I wasn't keeping track of time in those days, but some devotees were saying, we've distributed so many books now, I can't distribute any more books. At that time, it was maybe, a few 100,000 books had been distributed all over the world, but there's no limit. And we see how just numbers are going up and up and up. And distribution, of course, Prabhupada also, just things I remember when our Tripurari, he became like distributing so many books. Ramaswar wrote about it. Prabhupada's letter came back and said, that boy should read my books. He didn't say, oh, it's wonderful how many books is distributed. Sometimes he said. But another time when Mataji, she was a very big book distributor, Leela Shakti, and Prabhupada was driving away in his car for the morning walk. And she said, Prabhupada, we're distributing so many Ishu Upanishads every day. And it was, hundreds. And Prabhupada turned and said, you should read my book. Why don't you read my book? So it all goes together. We don't want to just read the books, but we don't want to just distribute the books and not read the book. But that's Iskcon. Prabhupada stressed it. He was so happy with the library party and getting reviews. So, what can be said? We can go on and on. We have so many examples. Even at the end of his stay with us, he was saying, these book distribution scores make me feel like a young man. And that was inspiring devotees like anything, distribute more books than him. So, how can we separate Prabhupada from book distribution? Because Prabhupada's books are the basis for everything we do. And he stressed distributing the knowledge, distributing the holy name. And I think that gives some idea of my realization. Anyway. It's what inspired me for book distribution. because many times trying to do some kind of so-called service and, there's no tangible results. We don't know, but at least when I distributed books, I always feel like this is connecting me to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada is pleased with it. So, other things I'm never sure. I'm trying to preach to someone, maybe I'm offending them. I'm trying to manage something and screwing it all up, but book distribution, it's very purifying. So Prabhupada, he wanted everybody to preach. It's not like a complicated thing. All right?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much. That was a very profound answer we got from you, Maharaj. We will take the next question, Maharaj, now. Is that, Maharaj, how do you think?
Yeah, any other?
Yeah, with this age of online speaking, and people are more used to reading now on the mobiles, on the iPads, and also on the laptops. So will that influence the amount of book distribution we do, of people reading the books, buying the books? What's your view about that, Maharaj?
Well, I think the numbers, like, let's say in the lockdown time, when it was only online, book distribution went way up, and then just in the book publication world outside, with all the ebooks, there was concern that sales of printed books would go down, and they found the opposite. It's increasing. So it's just a way to reach out to more and more people. And if they get ebooks, okay, it's still books. We can't be attached, but the actual book, in my opinion, like, sometimes we hear these huge numbers, 3 million Bhagavad Gitas or 55,000 sets of Srimad Bhagavatam. So where are they, And then there's always the question, I heard Bhakti Vikas Swami the other day, people say, well, a lot of people don't read the book. But he said that, some people do read the book, and some people read them 20 years later, even 30 years later. But I think it's also very important to get the printed books out, because this digital thing, we don't know how long it can last. That something happens where so far I don't know, like, I can't understand how Ukraine, the internet keeps going on the same, in spite of wars and bombs, and so devotees can still preach like that. But the actual printed books, they will be found, no matter what. No matter what happens, the books are somewhere. And so it's very important. So as far as I can see, the online is just helping to increase the distribution of Krishna consciousness. So many classes are available in so many languages, and available no matter where you are. Like here, I can speak now in India, but I'm sitting in Bali. I just had a class this morning, devotees in Israel, and like that. It just going on like that. So it's actually a boon, and it's people that have the printed book, they want the ebook too, so they can have access to it all the time with their iPad or their telephone or their computer or whatever. So no matter where they go, they have access to the book. But they may have also the hard books on their shelf at home. They like to read the book. I think everything is just special mercy of the Kali Yuga to help us expand more and more. and the rest of the world, of course, I look at the statistics. I saw that one year the Bhagavad Gita marathon was 2.2 million. 80% of them were in India. And I think probably half of the other 20% was to Indians all over the world. So, that's very important for the whole world. And now a lot of Indians are just in other countries distributing so many books. Also very powerful book distributors. Some of the biggest in the world are of Indian origin. So I think it's all well and good. It's all Krishna's mercy to give us, much more exposure. Before getting on the television, getting on the radio wasn't so easy, and we could only get on once every so often. But with this social media and with the web pages and everything, we can just bombard, everywhere over and over again at very little expense. All right.
Yes, Maharaj. Maharaj, we know that how you are preaching in various zones in this world, and there's a very diverse culture, diverse background, economic, social, and political. So, Maharaj, how do you implement your book distribution strategies in places like Africa, where you preach, in Indonesia, where it's like a very far off places from each other? Also, you mentioned today morning you had a class for Israel devotees. Also in Japan, you preach. So, Maharaj, what are the different avenues for book distribution? How devotees do they strategize? Anything you want to share with all the viewers who are watching us on the Zoom, also on the YouTube, Maharaj?
Well, desire is the most important thing. Makes things happen. Krishna fulfills all desires. So it's not that much different everywhere. Of course, getting books, like in Africa, there's just the basic problem of getting enough money to import books or to print some books there, which, quality won't be as good. And we can't print like the varieties of titles like the BBT India has available. Distribution is the same. If devotees try, like Gyanachak Shus, he somehow distributes so many Bhagavad Gitas and gets big money for them, but because he set people up. So he's really showing the world actually, but somehow or other it's not getting out. But he, by his own charisma, but also by preaching the Bhagavad Gita is so special and rare, and take this opportunity, and there's people lining up, it's some kind of event, and you can't even get enough books to supply the demand. So at least we're getting help now from the Middle East to import a lot of books. We just last Sunday, Gita Jayanti here in Indonesia released not the last, we're just finishing the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. It'll be 12 volumes. This is volume 11, just came out, because we make them pretty small. And so at that Sunday, we distributed 135. And just now tonight, another 25. And we haven't gone off to the other islands yet. It's all devotees taking one book. A few are taking 5, 10, 2, 3 books for distribution. But that's Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita's, it's a Hindu country here, so people know that They don't know Srimad Bhagavatam, they don't know that Puranas, but they know Bhagavad Gita, and we get a lot of demand. We get sponsors, and then schools are asking to give them to all the students. But reading the books, for the devotees, the more they read the book, the more they're going to want to distribute it. If we're just trying to distribute but we don't read them, that can backfire because we won't have faith. And if we get asked questions, we won't be able to answer. So it's not like we're just trying to have a contest of biggest sales, make the most profit, but to be able to actually preach to people, to represent the books, because you're going to get more and more people wanting to know about it. So everywhere is different. Japan, there's a cultural difficult, but same thing. There we're still just going out and distributing books, but devotees sell some online and trying to get the ebooks out. There's a lot of difficulties I won't discuss. It's not from the outside. Outside, it's not easy. People are very busy. They're not much interested in spiritual things. But of course, like everywhere, Manushyanam Sahasreshu, some people are very interested. So the devotees are becoming very, very happy, and especially distributing the holy name. Book distribution and Harinam go together. The more we spread the holy name, the more we can spread the books. The more we spread the books, as Prabhupada said, if my books have any value, at least I put the holy name a lot. So if people read them, they're going to be reading Krishna Raman and Sringavaraha, Hare Krishna. It's throughout the book so much. So there's not much difference everywhere. I was interviewed with the Chaitanya Charan one time. He asked it. I said the difficulty I find is our own false ego and prejudices we have about the people we're trying to preach to, which blocks us from, touching the heart, connecting with the soul. But Prabhupada connects with the soul. So we have faith that the book, everything is in the book. Every question will be answered, and people will get intimate association with Krishna and Prabhupada and Arjuna and everybody, whoever is there, Narada Muni. So my experience, I quite passionate as a youth, so I don't remember a lot of details, but there's just so many times. It's very mystical how people take books, how, depending on our mood, how we really realize we're not the controllers. That's why we recommend everybody give it a try, at least a little bit. Go out and meet people, give up your, whatever our position in society is, and just go toe to toe with people and, talk about Krishna. It's our, it's our mission. Prabhupada just said, without the books, we're not books that I just mentioned, like we had big court case in America, these deprogrammers, and Prabhupada just said, take all the books to the courtroom and show them what we are. And actually they did that. They brought in a big table and they put all of Prabhupada's books on the table and showed the judge what we are, what we have. And with all the reviews from the scholars about the value of these books. And then they had to make a court statement, that this is an authorized religious activity. It's not some strange cult brainwashing people, all because of the books. All right. Time
Yes,
is
Maharaj,
moving
thank you
on.
for giving your time. Maharaj, thank you for giving your time today.
Thank you for giving me a chance.
Thank you, Maharaj. As we close this program, we'd like to have a special message from your side for all the devotees, especially in India, for the book distribution marathon upgoing now? Any message for all of us here?
You keep going. I think in England they stop after Christmas. They have 1 month. They start after Thanksgiving, and but anyway, yeah, I think the Gita marathon goes into January, right?
Yes,
So
January 15th.
we have to remember our Vaisheshika Prabhu. He's got the formula. So the first thing is sadhana. The marathon means also intensified sadhana, although maybe not as much time. I remember one marathon, and Sura Prabhu made some songs. Chant your rounds, take prasad, read a verse a day. If you do this steadily, then Maya will stay away. Whoa, chant your rounds. And distribute the books, But know what we're doing. So sadhana, then get the books, which we have plenty of books now, and show the books, and where we show them, where they go. So, and just pray, my experience is the more I try to distribute, the more I was, had more and more time as trying to be a devotee. I found the only way I can distribute is to just pray for Lord Nityananda to help people. My own, words, they don't work. And saying what it might have worked when I was very new and Krishna was just trying to encourage me. But after a while, you have to understand, pray intensely, Krishna, help these people. These people are suffering. We have the medicine. These books are the medicine. And if somehow our people would take them, it purifies their home, purifies their whole life, their whole family. People that take the book don't always read it, but somebody does. So thank you very much for having this. And, India's marathon is no comparison now to the rest of the world. But I remember in Prabhupada's time, Prabhupada was frustrated because the leaders in India said it's impossible to distribute books in India. Everybody already has books. Everybody would always say that. But devotees persevered, and starting at the traveling bus in Bombay, Srinathji Prabhu donated some buses, and Bhima went out. And then all of a sudden, everything started to happen. Now people are begging for the books. Right? So thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj, Kavichandra Maharaj, for joining us for the ICC book distribution.
Thank you for inviting me. Great privilege of such association.
And thank you to all the devotees who have joined us online today for this wonderful session, and all those who will hear this later. We thank again all of you, and especially Maharaj for joining us. So thank you to all of you.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. Only a few online here, but all right. Yes, let me cut off and finish.
Thank you.
Thank you. My battery is just about done, so.